Are you curious about the R&D tax credit and whether your business qualifies as a small and medium enterprise? Look no further. In this video, we dive deep into the criteria for SME status and how it affects which R&D tax credit scheme you can use for your business. We'll break down the figures and explain how to assess your employee headcount, turnover, and balance sheet assets. You'll also learn about connected enterprises and the impact they may have on your SME status. Get ready to take your R&D tax credit knowledge to the next level. What is an SME for R&D tax credit purposes? For the purposes of the Research and Development Tax Credit, an organization must have fewer than 500 employees and meet one of the following criteria. A turnover of no more than 100 million euros, or gross assets of no more than 86 million euros. For the purposes of the R&D tax credit, if your employee headcount is less than 500, but you have more gross assets than turnover, you will be categorized as a large company. Why are the figures in euros? It's because the European Commission drafted the SME definition. You only need to change your sterling values into euros. It's that easy. It's also important to keep in mind that despite the fact that the SME definition comes from the European Commission, R&D tax credits are in no way dependent on funding from the EU. What R&D tax credit scheme do I use? It's critical to remember the criteria for what qualifies as a SME for R&D tax credits. This is because it is the main factor that decides which scheme you use to make your claim. Every pound spent on eligible expenses is worth up to 33 pence under the SME R&D tax credit scheme. For every pound spent on qualified expenditure, the Research and Development Expenditure Credit, or RDEC, is worth 11 pence. This video explains how to evaluate your business in comparison to the definition to determine where you stand. Despite your headcount, turnover, or balance sheet assets, it also shows a few more factors that may determine which scheme you can choose. How do you assess yourself against the criteria for SME status? To figure out your status for R&D tax credits, you need to look at the number of employees you have, how much money you make, and how much money is in your balance sheet. Let's take a closer look at these. What is meant by 500 staff? You must factor in all of the people who are paid by your company, including the directors, when calculating your staff levels. You can translate the hours of seasonal or part-time employees into annual work units. A person who works 4 days a week, for instance, would represent 0.8 of a unit. Subcontractors are not included in the total, however, secondees and any other deemed workers must be included if applicable. 3 notable exceptions exist. Apprentices under contract for an apprenticeship, maternity and paternity leave, and students enrolled in vocational training. How do you establish the 100 million euro turnover and 86 million euros balance sheet figures? You would normally use the annual turnover figure from your published accounts to determine whether your turnover meets the SME thresholds. VAT and indirect taxes can be excluded. You must annualize the statistics if your accounts cover a period that is either shorter than 12 months or greater than 12 months. You should check the gross assets in your published annual accounts to determine the balance sheet total. If the accounts provide an unfair result, HMRC does have the discretion to take your circumstances into account. What are connected enterprises? A connected enterprise is a specialized word used for tax purposes. It has to do with whether you are viewed as an autonomous entity or are in some manner a part of a broader group. When claiming an R&D tax credit, the nature of any connection is important. Are you a linked enterprise or a partner enterprise specifically? Even if you initially seem to be a SME, your response to this question may change whether you are. Partner enterprises. You must take into account whether any other businesses control between 25% and 50% of the company's capital or voting rights, or if you own between 25% and 50% of the capital or voting rights in any businesses. These enterprises are known as partner enterprises. Their workforce, turnover, and balance sheet assets must be combined with a portion of yours. According to the percentage holding, the numbers are combined. This rule exempts some businesses that would otherwise be considered partner businesses. Among other organizations, these include universities, venture capitalists, and institutional investors. Linked enterprises. If there are any enterprises that control your company, that your company controls, or that are controlled by the same person, then these enterprises are linked. To define control, one of three criteria must be met: owning more than 50% of the voting rights, having the power to change the majority of the senior management team, being able to exert a dominant influence over the company. In this case, the total headcount, turnover, and balance sheet assets data is aggregated before considering whether the SME thresholds have been met. It is not just companies you need to consider for aggregation. It is necessary to integrate additional businesses, such as partnerships and trusts. In this video, you learned about the key factors in determining whether your business is an SME for R&D tax credit purposes, including employee headcount, turnover, and gross assets. Remember, it's important to consider these criteria when determining which R&D tax credit scheme is best for your business. From rising energy prices to soaring inflation, UK SMEs are grappling with a number of significant business challenges going into the next financial year. You can't control many of these factors. What you can control is how well you improve your cash flow, prepare for the unexpected, and make the right choice for your business's near-term future. This may be one of the most volatile periods in recent history, but we can help you meet your growth plans through tax incentives aimed specifically for your business. It's easy to speak with us. Click the link in the description to arrange a callback from a tax specialist in our team. We'd love to talk to you, so please reach out for complete peace of mind.